The meaning of life, a philosopher's ultimate quest. Why are we here? Seriously, why? Is it some kind of cosmic oops, a carefully planned divine play, or something else? For thousands of years, this one question, what's the meaning of life, has been bouncing around in our heads, a quiet but persistent hum beneath all the noise of our daily routines. It's the kind of question that can just stop you in your tracks, mid-step, mid-thought, asking for an answer we often feel like we just don't have. Welcome everyone to a bit of a philosophical journey. Now, we're not promising to hand you the single, definitive answer to this ancient puzzle. Wouldn't that be something? Instead, we're setting out to explore the huge, diverse landscape of human thought, checking out how some of history's deepest thinkers have tackled this ultimate quest. And what do we even mean by meaning anyway? Are we looking for some pre-written destiny, a grand cosmic blueprint, or is meaning more personal, something we build, grow, and find within ourselves in what we go through? The truth is, the question itself is a bit of a shapeshifter. It changes depending on who's asking and when. Today, we'll wander through ancient halls of wisdom, sail across the sometimes stormy seas of existential thought, visit the peaceful gardens of Eastern insight, and finally, loop back to what's on our minds in modern life. We'll unpack the ideas of philosophers who spent their lives on this search. The hope isn't to give you the answer, but to help you get a better handle on the questions themselves and maybe find a compass for your own path. This isn't just homework, it's about exploring what it really means to be human. So, get your thinking caps on, open your minds, and let's begin. The Ancients' Blueprint: Virtue, Reason, and the Flourishing Life. Our search for meaning kicks off in the sun-soaked gathering places of ancient Greece, where philosophy wasn't just a subject you studied, it was a way to live. These early thinkers laid down the foundations for centuries of debate, offering blueprints for a life well lived, a life filled with purpose. First up is Plato, around 428 through 448 BCE, a real giant whose ideas have echoed through Western thought for over 2,000 years. For Plato, the world we see and touch is just a shadow, a less than perfect copy of a higher, eternal place. The world of forms. These forms are the perfect, unchanging core of things, ideas like justice, beauty, and crucially, the good. So in Plato's view, life's meaning comes from trying to understand these forms, turning our souls away from the fleeting shadows of the everyday world and towards the bright light of truth and reason. Plato, channeling his teacher Socrates, famously said, "The unexamined life is not worth living." This isn't an invitation to just stare at your navel, but a call for serious self-reflection and philosophical digging. Meaning is found in always chasing knowledge, growing in virtue, and getting our souls in tune with the eternal order of the forms. Imagine someone stuck in a cave, thinking shadows on the wall are real life. The philosopher is the one who breaks free, sees the sun, the form of the good, and truly gets what existence is all about. This journey to enlightenment, to grasping the good, isn't just a brain game, it's a moral and spiritual makeover. It's about getting the different parts of our soul, reason, spirit, and appetite, to work together, with reason steering the ship towards a just and orderly inner life. After Plato came his most famous student, Aristotle, 384 to 322 BCE. He offered a more down-to-earth but just as deep idea of human purpose. While Plato looked up to a world of forms beyond our own, Aristotle found meaning in the potential already inside human beings and the natural world. At the heart of Aristotle's ethics is a eudaimonia. You'll often see it translated as happiness, but eudaimonia is much richer than just a passing feeling. It's more like human flourishing, living well and doing well, really hitting your stride as a human being. So how do we get this eudaimonia? Aristotle had a two-part answer: by cultivating virtue and using our reason. He believed everything in nature has a telos, an end or purpose. An acorn's telos is to become an oak tree. A knife's telos is to cut well. So what's a human's telos, Aristotle says? It's to live a life of rational activity that's in line with virtue or excellence. What makes humans special is our ability to reason, and a flourishing human life is one where this ability is developed as much as possible. Aristotle pointed out two kinds of virtues: intellectual virtues like wisdom and understanding, and moral virtues like courage, moderation, justice, and generosity. These moral virtues aren't things we're born with. We get them through practice, by consistently choosing the golden mean between extremes. For example, courage is the sweet spot between being a coward and being reckless. For Aristotle, living virtuously isn't about strictly following rules, but about building good character, a tendency to act right and feel the right way in different situations. Eudaimonia, then, is an active life. It's the soul working in line with complete virtue, kept up over a whole lifetime. It also helps to have certain external things like friends, good health, and some level of prosperity, because these create the conditions where virtuous action can really shine. Moving on from Greece, we meet Stoicism, a philosophy that was popular for centuries in both Greece and Rome, with champions like Epictetus, Seneca, and even the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius. For the Stoics, the universe is a rationally ordered system, run by logos, or divine reason. From their point of view, the meaning of life is about living in sync with nature, which means living by reason and virtue. Stoicism gives us a powerful message of resilience and inner calm, especially useful when things feel chaotic and uncertain. The main idea of Stoicism is figuring out what's in our control and what's not. We control our thoughts, judgments, desires, and actions. We don't control things outside us, other people's actions, what people think of us, or ultimately, even our health. Real freedom and peace, the Stoics said, come from putting our energy into what we can control, our inner world, and accepting what we can't with a calm mind. For a Stoic, a meaningful life is one spent chasing virtue, mainly through wisdom, understanding the world and our place in it, justice, treating others fairly, courage, facing tough times with strength, and temperance, keeping our desires and emotions in check. Unlike the existentialists we'll talk about later, Stoics don't think life is naturally meaningless. Meaning comes from how we react to things, using reason as our guide and virtue as our compass. The goal is to build an excellent moral character, to become a good and wise person, no matter what's happening around us. This path is tough, but, importantly, the Stoics believed anyone could walk it. Wealth, fame, or power don't really matter for a truly meaningful life. What counts is the quality of our character and how rationally we act. The ancient philosophers, even with their different takes, all seem to agree on one thing. Life's meaning isn't something you just stumble upon, it's something you actively chase. Whether it was Plato climbing towards the forms, Aristotle cultivating eudaimonia, or the Stoics practicing disciplined virtue and reason, they built a foundation for understanding meaning as deeply connected to how we live, what we value, and the kind of people we try to be. Their wisdom reminds us that the search for meaning is itself a key part of a truly flourishing human life. Echoes of the divine, meaning in faith and higher purpose. As the classical age started to fade, new voices popped up, talking about a vision of meaning based not just on human reason or virtue, but on a divine order, a reality beyond us that gives purpose to everything. For tons of people throughout history and across different cultures, the answer to what's the meaning of life has been found in faith, in connecting to something bigger than themselves. Theistic views generally suggest that the universe and human life are the work of a purposeful creator, often called God. So, life's meaning isn't something we cook up ourselves. It comes from understanding and trying to fit into this divine plan. One of the most important figures in shaping Western Christian thought on this was Saint Augustine of Hippo, 354 to 330 AD. His life story, Confessions, is a deep dive into a soul's journey towards God. It's a powerful argument for the idea that human existence finds its ultimate meaning in relation to the divine. Augustine famously wrote, "You have made us for yourself, O Lord. and our heart is restless until it rests in you. That one sentence really captures a key part of his philosophy. Humans are made by God and for God, and real fulfillment, real meaning, can only be found in being united with God. Augustine's early life was a restless hunt for truth and satisfaction in different philosophies and worldly pleasures, but nothing really stuck. His journey led him to realize that this built-in human restlessness is actually a longing for God. For Augustine, the meaning of life isn't just to be alive or even to be a good person in a worldly sense, but to know, love, and praise God. This relationship with God isn't just about agreeing with an idea. It's a deep, life-changing experience that turns a person completely towards their ultimate goal. Sin, as Augustine saw it, is turning away from God, loving lesser things more, which ultimately leads to feeling empty and hopeless. Redemption and true meaning are found by turning that love back to where it belongs, God. His work suggests that human life is a kind of pilgrimage, and meaning is found in the journey towards eternal life with God, a journey helped along by divine grace. Centuries later, another giant in Christian philosophy, St. Thomas Aquinas, 122-5-1274, blended Christian theology with Aristotle's philosophy. He created a massive framework for understanding life's purpose. In his Summa Theologica, Aquinas argued that our ultimate end, the final purpose of human life, is happiness. Real, perfect happiness, he said, is seeing God face to face in the afterlife, the vision of the divine essence. For Aquinas, life is a gift from God. Humans, as caretakers of this gift, have a moral duty to look after it and use it for its intended purpose, which is ultimately union with God. While we can find a sort of imperfect happiness in this earthly life through virtuous living and using our reason, nodding to Aristotle, that's just a little taste of the perfect happiness waiting for us in what's called the beatific vision. All human actions, Aquinas thought, are aimed at some goal, and our will naturally wants what's good. The ultimate good, the universal good, that can completely satisfy the human will is God Himself. So, the meaning of life lies in knowing, loving, and serving God in this world so we can achieve eternal happiness with Him in the next. This means living a life of virtue, guided by both natural law, which we can figure out through reason, and divine law, revealed through Scripture and tradition. The journey towards God is what a meaningful existence is all about. The idea that meaning comes from a divine plan isn't just a Christian one. The Baha'i faith, a younger world religion that started in the 19th century, teaches that life's purpose is to know and worship God, and to help build an ever-advancing civilization. Humans are seen as naturally spiritual beings, made in God's image. Earthly life is a place to develop divine qualities and virtues, like love, compassion, justice, and trustworthiness. Serving humanity is a huge part of it, seen as a practical way to show love for God and to grow spiritually. The Baha'i view stresses the unity of God, the unity of religions, and the unity of humankind, suggesting that helping to make the world better and encouraging unity are essential for a meaningful life. Many Christian views today still echo these core ideas, saying that life's meaning is found in a personal relationship with God, often through Jesus Christ. This relationship is seen as fixing a broken connection between people and God, giving not only a purpose for this life, to love God and neighbor, to reflect divine qualities, and to join in God's work of redemption, but also the promise of eternal significance. From this angle, meaning isn't just about what we do, but who we are in relation to our Creator. A really powerful example of someone wrestling with faith and meaning is the great Russian novelist Leo Tolstoy, 1828-1910. Even though he had worldwide fame, plenty of money, and a big family, Tolstoy hit a massive spiritual crisis in his 50s. He found his life, despite all its outward success, completely meaningless, and even thought about suicide. He kept asking why he should live. What lasting result could possibly come from his short existence in an infinite world? He looked into science, philosophy, and the lives of the sophisticated people around him, but nothing satisfied him. Tolstoy's breakthrough came when he started paying attention to the lives of ordinary working people, the peasants whose faith seemed to give them a sense of purpose and strength when facing hardship. He decided that to know God and to live is one and the same thing. God is life. For Tolstoy, meaning wasn't in logical thinking alone, nor in pleasure-seeking or worldly success, but in faith, a faith that connected him to something infinite and gave him a reason to live. This faith meant living a life of love, humility, simplicity, and connection with others, especially the poor and suffering. He realized that his earlier goals, focused on personal gain and status, had led him to an existential dead end. True meaning, he found, was in aligning his finite life with an infinite meaning, found in God and shown through a life of unselfish service and love. These religious and spiritual viewpoints, though they differ in their specific beliefs and practices, all share a common idea. Human life isn't just a cosmic accident, but part of a bigger, purposeful design. Meaning isn't something we just invent. It's something we discover by tuning into this divine reality through faith, worship, virtuous living, and service. For billions of people, looking towards something transcendent offers a deep and lasting answer to the philosopher's ultimate quest: the courage to be, existentialism, and the creation of meaning. As the solid ground of traditional religious belief started to shake for some people, especially after big scientific discoveries, devastating wars, and major societal changes in the 19th and 20th centuries, a new and pretty radical philosophical movement called existentialism stepped onto the scene. This school of thought looks the question of meaning right in the eye, often starting with a rather stark idea: the universe itself has no built-in meaning or purpose, and we humans are terrifyingly free. The father of existentialism, Søren Kierkegaard, 18131-855, a Danish philosopher, wasn't a fan of abstract philosophical systems or the cozy, unthinking Christianity he saw around him. He stressed the individual's personal experience, the importance of passionate commitment, and the anxiety that comes with human freedom. Kierkegaard believed that people have to create their own meaning instead of just passively getting it from society or even organized religion. He famously described 3 stages on life's way: the aesthetic, living for pleasure and immediate experiences; the ethical, living by moral principles and duty; and the religious, living by a leap of faith. This leap of faith, for Kierkegaard, isn't a logical conclusion, but an all-in commitment to something finite, like God, though his idea of faith was very personal and often paradoxical. Made even when things are uncertain and seem absurd, meaning is found in this passionate individual commitment, in living authentically as yourself within reality, rather than getting lost in abstract ideas or just going along with the crowd. Building on some of these ideas, though often from a more atheistic standpoint, Friedrich Nietzsche, 184-41900, announced the death of God. He didn't just mean a literal disbelief in a deity, but the collapse of the traditional moral and philosophical foundations that had propped up Western civilization. In a world without God, humanity is left without any preset values or cosmic purpose. This realization leads to nihilism, the feeling that all values are pointless and that life is meaningless. But Nietzsche didn't see nihilism as the end of the story. He saw it as a phase. He called for a revaluation of all values and suggested the idea of the Übermensch, often translated as Overman or Superman, as a new reason for existing. The Übermensch is someone who beats nihilism by creating their own values, embracing life with all its suffering and joy, and saying yes to existence through the will to power. The will to power, for Nietzsche, isn't just a desire to dominate, but the basic drive of all life to grow, strive, overcome, and create. So meaning isn't found, it's created by strong individuals who dare to live authentically, to affirm life, and to stamp their own will and values onto a meaningless world. He wasn't interested in the idea that life's meaning could be found in just maximizing pleasure or minimizing pain. The existentialist flag was carried into the 20th century by people like Jean-Paul Sartre, 1905198. Sartre famously said that for humans, existence precedes essence. What this means is that we're born without a preset nature or purpose. That's the essence. We first exist, we show up in the world, and then we define ourselves by our choices and actions. Think about a manufactured thing, like a paper knife. It has an essence designed and purpose before it exists. Its maker thought it up first. But humans, Sartre said, aren't like paper knives. There's no divine craftsman who designed us. We are radically free, and because of that, we are radically responsible for what we make of ourselves. Man is nothing else but what he makes of himself, Sartre declared. That's the #1 principle of existentialism. This total freedom is a heavy load to carry. It leads to existential angst or anxiety. The awareness that we alone are responsible for creating our own meaning and values in a world that doesn't give us any built-in guidelines. We are, as he put it, condemned to be free. Every choice we make isn't just for ourselves, but in a way for all of humanity, because we're choosing what we think a human being should be. For Sartre, living authentically means embracing this freedom and responsibility, making choices and committing to projects that define who we are. To deny this freedom, to blame our circumstances or human nature for what we do, is to live in bad faith. Meaning then is the sum total of our actions, the project of our life, freely chosen and passionately pursued in a universe that offers no outside approval. Another key figure in existentialism is Albert Camus, 1913-1960. Camus zeroed in on the concept of the absurd. The absurd, for Camus, pops up from the clash between our natural human desire for meaning, unity, and clarity, and the unreasonable silence of the world. A universe that just doesn't answer our deepest questions, a world that's ultimately irrational and meaningless. This collision, this split between what we long for and the world's indifference, that's the absurd. Camus famously explored this idea in his essay The Myth of Sisyphus. Sisyphus, from Greek mythology, was condemned by the gods to forever roll a boulder up a mountain, only to have it roll back down every time he got near the top. Sisyphus's work is repetitive, pointless, and seems totally meaningless. A metaphor, Camus suggests, for the human condition. The modern worker slogging away at a meaningless job day after day could be seen as a modern Sisyphus. So if life is absurd, what do we do? Camus says suicide is not the answer. That's just giving in to the absurd. He also rejects philosophical suicide, the leap of faith into a religious or metaphysical system that denies the absurd by saying there is a transcendent meaning, because that's just dodging the issue. Instead, Camus suggests revolt, freedom, and passion as the real ways to respond to the absurd. We have to live in constant rebellion against the absurd, keeping it alive by consciously recognizing the conflict between our desire for meaning and the meaningless universe. This revolt gives life its value. Realizing there's no ultimate purpose or divine plan frees us from the chains of hoping for an afterlife or a preset meaning. We become free to experience the richness of life right now without the weight of eternal consequences. We should live life intensely, experiencing as much as possible. What counts is not the best living, but the most living. For Camus, Sisyphus can be seen as the absurd hero. He knows his fate, his labor is endless and without ultimate hope, yet he keeps going. In the moment he walks back down the mountain, free from his boulder for a bit, Sisyphus can become aware of just how miserable his situation is. It's during this pause, this breathing space, that he's superior to his fate. He is stronger than his rock. Camus ends his essay with the incredible line, "The struggle itself towards the heights is enough to fill a man's heart." One must imagine Sisyphus happy. Sisyphus finds meaning not in the outcome, which is meaningless, but in the struggle itself, in his conscious, defiant persistence, even when faced with absurdity. His happiness is a kind of scornful happiness, born from realizing that his fate belongs to him. Existentialism in its different forms offers a tough but potentially empowering view. It strips away comforting illusions of pre-packaged meaning and forces us to face the raw reality of our freedom and responsibility. Meaning isn't something out there waiting to be found. It's something we have to hammer out in the workshop of our own souls, through our choices, our commitments, and our courageous embrace of an absurd existence. It's a call to live authentically, passionately, and responsibly, to become the authors of our own lives in a universe that gives us no script. This path takes courage, the courage to be, even when faced with meaninglessness, and to create meaning where none is given. The Path of Flow, Eastern Wisdom on Harmony and Liberation. Our philosophical journey now heads eastward, to ancient traditions that offer some deep and often very different views on the meaning of life. While many Western philosophies focus on individual action, divine purpose, or creating meaning in a seemingly uncaring universe, Eastern philosophies often stress interconnectedness, dissolving the ego, finding harmony with the cosmos, and seeking freedom from suffering. Hinduism, one of the world's oldest religious and philosophical traditions, gives us a many-sided understanding of life's purpose through the idea of the Purusharthas, the four valid goals of human life. These are 1. Dharma, righteousness, moral values, duty. Dharma is the basic principle guiding ethical behavior in all parts of life. It's not a one-size-fits-all deal, but depends on your age, social position, role in society, and stage of life. Living according to Dharma keeps individuals and society in harmony. 2. Artha, prosperity, economic values, material success. Artha is about pursuing the wealth and security you need to support yourself and your family, and to meet your worldly responsibilities. Hindu teachings say Artha should be gained ethically, in line with Dharma. 3. Kama. Pleasure, love, psychological and aesthetic fulfillment. Kama includes enjoying sensory pleasures, emotional fulfillment, love, and appreciating beauty and art. Like Artha, Kama is seen as a fine human pursuit when guided by Dharma, bringing joy without going overboard or causing harm. 4. Moksha. Liberation, spiritual values, self-realization. Moksha is seen as the ultimate goal of human life. It means freedom from samsara, the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, and reaching ultimate freedom, self-acknowledge, and union with the divine or ultimate reality, Brahman. These four Purusharthas are meant to be chased in a balanced way. Dharma provides the ethical guide for Artha and Kama, and all three ultimately help the journey towards moksha, meaning. In this setup, Egerton is found in doing your duties, achieving worldly success responsibly, enjoying life's legitimate pleasures, and ultimately aiming for spiritual liberation and understanding your true, eternal nature beyond the temporary ego. Buddhism, started by Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, in ancient India around the 5th century BCE, offers a distinct path to understanding life's meaning, mostly focused on overcoming suffering. The Buddha taught that reality is marked by impermanence, patanika, suffering or dissatisfaction, dukkha, and non-self, and tat not. Our suffering comes from craving, attachment, and not knowing the true nature of reality, especially the illusion of a permanent, independent self. The heart of Buddhist teachings is found in the Four Noble Truths. 1. The truth of suffering, dissatisfaction, and stress. 2. The truth of the origin of suffering. Samudaya, suffering, comes from craving, attachment, and aversion, all rooted in ignorance. 3. The truth of the cessation of suffering. Nirodha is possible to end suffering. 4. The truth of the path to the cessation of suffering. Mega Mamimani Enyayu Yoki. The way to end suffering is by following the Noble Eightfold Path. The Noble Eightfold Path is made up of right understanding, right thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. This path is a practical guide to ethical behavior, mental discipline, and wisdom, leading to the end of suffering and reaching Nibbana. Nirvana is a state of deep peace, enlightenment, and freedom from the cycle of rebirth, a state beyond suffering and the conditioned existence of the ego. From a Buddhist viewpoint, the meaning of life isn't found in worldly achievements, sensory pleasures, or even in a relationship with a creator god. Buddhism is generally non-theistic. Instead, meaning lies in the potential for spiritual awakening, in cultivating wisdom and compassion, in understanding the true nature of reality, and in ultimately freeing yourself and others from suffering. It's a path of inner transformation, stressing self-awareness, mindfulness, and ethical living. The idea of no self, an Atman, is super important. Realizing that there's no permanent, unchanging ego is key to detaching from the things that cause suffering and experiencing liberation. Taoism, which started in China with figures like Lao Tzu, who wrote the Tao Te Ching, and Chuangzi, offers a philosophy centered on living in harmony with the Tao, or Tao. The Tao is often translated as the way or the path, but it really means the fundamental, indescribable principle that underlies and flows through everything in the universe, the natural order, the source of all existence. As Lao Tzu famously wrote, "The Tao that can be spoken of is not the eternal Tao," pointing to its mysterious and deep nature that's beyond any easy definition. The meaning of life in Taoism is to live in tune with the Tao. This involves embracing simplicity, spontaneity, humility, and naturalness. A key idea is Wu Wei, often translated as non-action or effortless action. Wu Wei doesn't mean doing nothing at all, but rather acting in a way that's natural, spontaneous, and in line with the flow of the Tao, without forcing things or struggling against the natural course of events. It's like water which effortlessly finds its way, yielding but also powerful. Taoism emphasizes how everything is connected and the cyclical nature of reality, often symbolized by yin and yang, complementary opposites like dark/light, feminine/masculine, whose interaction creates harmony. To find meaning is to understand these natural rhythms and to live in balance, letting go of artificial desires and societal pressures that create conflict and distress. Those who flow as life flows know they need no other force. As Lao Tzu suggested, wisdom in Taoism comes not just from thinking about it, but from a direct, intuitive experience of the Tao, often cultivated through practices like meditation and observing nature. It's about unlearning, getting back to your original nature, and finding contentment in the present moment by letting reality be what it is. Confucianism, another influential Chinese philosophy founded by Confucius, Kong Fuzi 551 to 479 BCE, focuses on social ethics, how humans should relate to each other, and cultivating virtue as the way to a harmonious society and a meaningful individual life. While it doesn't dive into the meaning of life in a metaphysical sense quite like some other philosophies, Confucianism gives a clear framework for living a purposeful life, right here in the human world. The core of Confucianism is about cultivating Ren, benevolence, humanity, humaneness, Li, ritual propriety, proper conduct, Xiao, filial piety, respect for parents and elders, and other virtues. Meaning is found in fulfilling your social roles and responsibilities with sincerity and dedication, whether you're a ruler, a subject, a parent, a child, a spouse, or a friend. Society is seen as a web of interconnected relationships, and harmony comes when everyone understands and carries out their duties within these relationships properly. The gentleman or superior person is Junzi, is the Confucian ideal, someone who cultivates moral excellence, wisdom, and sincerity, and who tries to contribute to the well-being of their family, community, and state. Education and self-cultivation are hugely important in Confucianism. By studying the classics, reflecting on moral principles, and striving to act virtuously, people can develop their moral character and help create a flourishing society. The focus is on making a good and orderly human world here and now, rather than on an afterlife or transcendent realms. So meaning is deeply tied to your community, your relationships, and your contribution to social harmony through ethical living. And these Eastern philosophies, each with its own unique flavor, offer pathways to meaning that often take a different route than Western ones. They invite us to look inward, to understand our connection with the cosmos and with each other, to seek harmony instead of conquest, and to find liberation or fulfillment not necessarily through external achievements, but through inner transformation, wisdom, and compassion. They remind us that the search for meaning can also be a journey towards deep peace and a real alignment with the fundamental nature of things. Modern echoes and the individual quest navigating meaning today. Our philosophical trek has taken us through ancient lands, up to divine heights, through existential depths, and into peaceful Eastern gardens. Now, we land back in our contemporary world, a world of mind-blowing technological leaps, global connection, and yet, for many, a persistent, maybe even stronger search for meaning. How do all these different philosophical ideas resonate today, and how can they help us, as modern individuals, on our own personal quest? The worries of the existentialists feel especially relevant in the 21st century. In a time often marked by rapid change, too much information, and for some, the crumbling of traditional certainties, that feeling of existential angst, the anxiety that comes from the freedom and responsibility to create our own meaning, is something many of us know well. The questions raised by Sartre, Camus, and Kierkegaard about radical freedom, the absurd, and the need for individual commitment echo in our modern search for authenticity and purpose in our careers, relationships, and personal values. The Stoic emphasis on telling the difference between what we can and cannot control offers a powerful remedy for the anxieties of modern life. In a world full of external pressures, social media comparisons, and global uncertainties, Stoic practices like focusing on inner virtue, rational responses, and accepting external events can help us build resilience and find calm. The Stoic ideal of building excellent moral character, separate from outside approval, remains a strong source of personal meaning. Religious and spiritual perspectives still provide a solid foundation of meaning for billions. That longing to connect with something larger than ourselves, for a divine purpose, and for a moral framework rooted in faith, is still a powerful human drive. The stories of Augustine's restless heart finding peace in God, or Tolstoy's crisis being resolved by returning to simple faith and service, strike a chord with those who find that purely secular answers don't quite address life's deepest questions. The Baha'i call to spiritual growth and service to humanity, or Christian teachings on love and redemption, offer lasting paths to a purposeful existence. Eastern philosophies also offer really useful wisdom for the modern seeker. Buddhist practices like mindfulness and meditation have become incredibly popular in the West as tools for managing stress, boosting self-awareness, and cultivating compassion. All things that contribute to a more meaningful and less reactive way of living. The Taoist invitation to flow with life, to embrace simplicity, and to find harmony with nature speaks to a deep-seated desire to escape the relentless pace and artificiality of modern city life. Hindu concepts of dharma and the pursuit of moksha remind us of the importance of ethical living and the ultimate human quest for spiritual liberation, offering a well-rounded view of life that blends worldly responsibilities with spiritual hopes. One interesting thing happening now is the rise of existential therapy. This psychological approach directly uses existentialist principles to help people navigate questions of meaning, freedom, responsibility, anxiety, and death. It acknowledges the anxiety that can pop up when we face life's big questions and helps people create personally meaningful lives by exploring their values, choices, and potential. This kind of therapy shows just how relevant philosophical searching still is for our well-being. And research in psychology and public health has started to back up what philosophers have known for a long time. Having a sense of purpose is strongly linked to better health, resilience, and overall happiness. On the flip side, a lack of meaning can lead to feeling adrift, depressed, and disoriented. This really drives home the point that the quest for meaning isn't just some abstract philosophical hobby, it's a fundamental human need. So what does this grand tour of philosophical thought offer you? standing at your own life's crossroads, asking, what is the meaning of my life? First, it shows you're not alone in asking. It's a deeply human question, one that the greatest minds across cultures and throughout history have chewed on. There's a shared heritage of inquiry we can tap into. Second, it shows there's no single, universally agreed upon answer. The paths to meaning are many and varied. Some find it in divine purpose, others in rational virtue, some in bravely creating themselves, and others in aligning with the cosmos or serving humanity. This variety isn't a weakness, it's a strength, offering a rich tapestry of views to inform our own search. Third, these philosophies offer tools, not just theories. They give us frameworks for self-reflection, making ethical choices, and engaging with the world. Plato and Aristotle invite us to examine our lives, cultivate virtue, and aim for a flourishing existence through reason and excellence. The Stoics teach us resilience, inner freedom, and the power of focusing on our own responses. Religious traditions offer ways to connect with the transcendent, to find purpose in a divine plan, and to live a life of faith and service. The existentialists challenge us to embrace our freedom, to face the absurd with courage, and to create our own meaning through authentic choices and commitments. Eastern philosophies guide us towards inner peace, interconnectedness, compassion, and freedom from suffering through practices like mindfulness, ethical living, and seeking harmony. It seems many of these paths, despite their differences, do agree on some key things. For instance, the idea that superficial things like wealth, fame, or power aren't the ultimate sources of meaning pops up in Stoicism, existentialism, many religious traditions, and Eastern thought. The emphasis on living authentically, though defined differently, is another common theme, whether it's the Stoic living in line with nature, the existentialist embracing their freedom, or the Buddhist walking the Eightfold Path. There's a shared call to live a life that's true to some deeper principle, be it reason, self-creation, or universal compassion. The philosopher's ultimate quest is maybe less about finding a definitive, one-size-fits-all meaning of life, and more about engaging in the deeply personal, ongoing process of finding meaning in life. Perhaps meaning isn't a destination you arrive at, but more like a way of traveling. It's found in the questions we ask, the values we hold dear, the connections we make, the contributions we offer, and the growth we pursue. The very act of engaging in this search, of wrestling with these big ideas, is itself a meaningful activity. As our journey through these vast philosophical landscapes starts to offer a clearer view, the trip doesn't really end here. In fact, for you, it might just be beginning. We've explored how thinkers throughout history have grappled with life's most profound question, offering not one single map, but a whole collection of compasses. What clicks most with you? Is it the call to virtue and reason from the ancients, the embrace of faith and divine purpose, the existential challenge to create your own meaning in what can feel like an absurd world, or the Eastern paths of harmony, liberation, and interconnectedness? We encourage you to take these ideas not as final answers but as starting points for your own thinking. Maybe keep a journal, chat about these concepts with friends, or look up more reading on the philosophers or traditions that sparked your curiosity. If this journey has made you think, please give this video a like. It helps other people find their way to this exploration. And more importantly, we'd love to hear your voice in this ongoing conversation. What does the meaning of life mean to you? Which philosophical ideas do you find most compelling or challenging? Share your thoughts, questions, and personal insights in the comments below. Your perspective makes this collective quest even richer. And if you want to keep exploring life's big questions with us, to set off on more philosophical expeditions, make sure to subscribe to the channel and click the notification bell so you don't miss our future voyages into the world of ideas. So here we are at a kind of vantage point, looking back at the winding paths we've covered. We've seen that the meaning of life isn't a simple riddle with a single clever solution. It's more like a huge, intricate mosaic, with each philosophical tradition offering a unique and valuable piece. The ultimate quest of the philosopher, and really of every thoughtful person, is perhaps not to arrive at a final, universally acclaimed meaning of life. The profound beauty of this quest lies in the journey itself, in the courage to ask the deepest questions, to face uncertainty, and to consciously take on the challenge of living a life that feels significant and purposeful to you. The diverse voices we've listened to, Plato, Aristotle, Augustine, Aquinas, Kierkegaard, Nietzsche, Sartre, Camus, Tolstoy, the sages of the East, and many others, don't just hand us a prepackaged answer. Instead, they offer us a rich toolkit, concepts, arguments, perspectives, and spiritual practices. They provide lenses through which we can look at our own experiences, values, and hopes. Ultimately, the meaning of your life is your life's work, in the deepest sense. It might be found in the love you share, the compassion you show, the knowledge you seek, the beauty you create or appreciate, the challenges you overcome, the service you give, or the inner peace you cultivate. It might be a grand, overarching purpose, or it might be discovered in the small, everyday moments of connection, joy, and quiet contribution. The enduring legacy of these philosophers is the invitation to live more consciously, more reflectively, and more authentically. The quest for meaning doesn't end with one definitive answer shouted from a mountaintop, but rather in the quiet wisdom of navigating our own unique existence with courage, integrity, and an open heart. Thank you for joining us on this philosophical expedition. May you continue your own quest with curiosity, wisdom, and a renewed sense of wonder at the profound mystery and potential of human existence. The compass, ultimately, is in your hands.